Hello YouTube, Sign here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we are doing another Kaiju number 8 chapter review. Today we are going to be reviewing chapter 37. Now, as always, we're going to have a recap section and then the actual discussion. I don't really have any theories today, so we're not going to have that section today. So hopefully this video is a little bit shorter. So let's just jump into it. Let's start the review. But before that, actually, we have to look at some news. Apparently, and maybe this isn't really relevant to the majority of my audience, but I recently saw that Volume 3 is scheduled. No, Volume 3 is already out. I actually went to Kinokuniya the other day and I saw it. It looks so good. It doesn't actually look as yellow as the digital images look. It's actually kind of more like a yellow-green kind of color. I'm not really sure what to call it. But it leans a little bit more green in the same way that maybe like a lime or lemon flavored Gatorade is yellow, if that makes sense. I don't know. That's probably like a very bad comparison, but I'll put up a picture of a yellow Gatorade so you guys can see what I'm talking about right there. But it kind of looks like that. And the blue for Volume 2 actually isn't as dark as I thought it was going to be, but all three of them look really nice together on the display. I just didn't want to buy it because if the physicals are going to come out in English in December, I'll just wait for them. I don't really want to buy the same series twice, like in succession. So that's it. But Volume 4 is apparently going to come sometime in September. I thought I heard September 1st, but it might have been something else, like September 11th. But we don't have a physical or like a look at the cover of that yet, but I thought it was interesting. The other thing I saw was apparently some Spaniard manga company is going to release Kaiju number 8. I don't know if it was Ivrea or Milky Way, or what's the other one that they have? ECC, and I think they also have Glenat. It's one of those four, and I'm pretty sure it's either Ivrea or Milky Way, since those two are the bigger ones, as far as I know. Actually, maybe Milky Way is Argentinian, but the point is that someone in Spain is going to release it. And today, Panini Manga Mexico actually was asking for licenses that they wanted to try to get, according to users, right? And a lot of people were asking for Kaiju number 8, so maybe Kaiju number 8 is coming to the general Latin American and Spanish-speaking community sometime soon, which is pretty exciting. I think the Latin American community in general, and generally the Spanish-speaking community, is a rather underappreciated but rather large amount of the community that we kind of just forget, because most of the time interactions in online media is in English, right? So appreciate our Latin American and Hispanic brothers, right, and sisters that like manga. So yeah, let's move on to the recap now. So yeah, basically chapter 36, which is 2 weeks ago, Kafka doesn't really have control of his body anymore. Apparently, my theory was that basically Kafka finally feels like he's in danger, and because he doesn't want to fight Mr. Shinomiya properly, the Kaiju is just like, no, fuck this guy. I'm going to take control of his body and use it the way I want to in order to kill this other guy, because he might kill me instead, which is kind of like a very parasitic relationship between Kafka and that really weird bug Kaiju that infected him in the first chapter. And basically, he's battling it out with Mr. Shinomiya, and Mr. Shinomiya is like pushing him kind of around, I guess. But now, you know, the beast is free and Kafka's going on full on berserk, and, you know, is basically beating the shit out of Mr. Shinomiya, or is about to beat the shit out of Mr. Shinomiya. And yeah, we get to see Kafka in some sort of inner, like, mental plane where we kind of see him stuck in some like kaiju flesh, and we see him floating around in some like gas or something, or like some liquid. And yes, Kafka starts to beat the shit out of Mr. Shinomiya, and it's basically a battle between number 2 and number 8, Kaiju number 2 and Kaiju number 8, which actually leads to some really amazing imagery overall. I really liked it. It was like this Godzilla creature versus, you know, Kafka, and it looked really cool. I really enjoyed it, actually. But I mean, that's it. The last chapter was actually really long. It was about 23 pages long, which is significantly longer than just about every chapter except the first one, right? So yeah, pretty good stuff there. So let's move on to the actual discussion. But as always, if you guys want to see the full review of the last chapter, you guys can do that right there in the card. And you guys can also check out all of my other Kaiju number 8 videos in the playlist at the end of the video, which has a lot of different stuff. We go over some lore things. We go over some general ideas. We have a first look at the Japanese volume. And maybe I'll do some follow-up videos of the English one and then maybe in the Spaniard one. Because I don't mind buying single volumes of a series and having multiple languages of it. I just don't really like having multiple sets of the same series when it comes to manga, because it's not that serious. The only series I have in multiple languages is Harry Potter, and it's only because of a really odd set of circumstances. So, yeah, let's just jump into the actual review now. So, chapter 37 has 19 pages. And it actually happens really quickly. Like, a lot of stuff feels like it moved really fast. I don't think that we really had that much development, honestly. I mean, because this is mostly a battle-oriented chapter, nothing that much is happening because there's really no exposition that needs to happen right at this moment. What we get is basically Kafka just beating the shit out of Mr. Shinomiya, like, constantly, like, really battering him down. And Mr. Shinomiya trying to kind of deal with it, but not being able to that well. And then we see kind of Kafka have a moment of like, fuck, I suck. I can't control myself. And then, you know, the whole rising spirit thing, like in Naruto, where like suddenly he's like, oh yeah, I can do this anyways. It doesn't matter. I can still try. And then, you know, we get the big, like, no, I didn't kill this guy because I'm not the bad guy, right? But yeah, let's like talk about it more in depth, and I'll tell you everything that kind of happens in the chapter. So yeah, Kafka starts out of control. He's going bigger and bigger and bigger, and he's super badass right now. His power is growing exponentially, like way more than Mr. Shinomiya anticipated. And yeah, he's out of control, and he's trying not to kill Mr. Shinomiya. Like, Kafka is like in this wall of flesh. He's just chilling there, but he can see and tell everything that is happening around him because it's still his body. He just can't control it. Like, he has no way of like actually moving. And so he's just kind of like helpless, and he's just thinking about it and stuff, and he's trying to see what's going on and what to do. And yeah, Mr. Shinomiya is kind of staying in the fight. He's trying his best. He's actually holding his own relatively well early on. He maxes out his shield. And then he uses his special attack again, like the one where he goes like this, which is like Kaiju number 2 special attack squad formation something. It's like a really long name. And he attacks again, and we get another cool image of like Mr. Shinomiya like punching himself and then doing a pose that looks like a martial arts pose with like a lot of lightning arching off his body. And then we get to see like the kaiju in the background, like the representation of the kaiju behind him. That looks really awesome. Like, the imagery here is really cool. I really love these kind of like spiritual energy, not really material, but still kind of interesting looking creature designs that happen when characters are like super powered, right? I really like it. It's just super cool. Kind of like in Saint Seiya when, you know, Seiya does a thing where he like charges up his Cosmo ready to explode it. And then we get to see Pegasus move across the screen as he's punching the other guy. Like, I really like those types of depictions, right? Because they add a huge level of like interest to the scene. And I really like that that's being played up here. And it's just really interesting and really enjoyable. And yeah, Kafka does this like power scream thing. He just kind of like what's it called? He like screeches at Mr. Shinomiya, and he kind of like beats him up with it. Like, it just, I guess his scream is so strong that Mr. Shinomiya just bounces off of it, right? And yeah, Kafka is having a tough time. Mr. Shinomiya got caught by Kafka, or like by Kaiju Kafka, and he's being held against the wall with his hand like this. Like, Mr. Shinomiya is right here, right? And Kafka's holding him like this. And we get to see Kafka like thinking really fast about how, damn it, I'm going to kill this guy if I don't figure out what to do. Holy shit, I'm going to be the reason Koro sees her dad dying in front of her. And, I mean, justifiably, fully justified. Hikaru is horrified by what she's seeing, right? Because Kafka is just beating her dad up like crazy. This man is going hard, mollywopping this guy. And, you know, we get the whole thing where she's like, no, it's fine. I still believe in Kafka, even though he's a horrible monster right now. I'm sure that he's going to do well. And she yells at him like, hey, Kafka Hibino, what the fuck's wrong with you? Get back in charge and stop trying to kill my dad. And Kafka finally gets a little bit of resolve. He breaks free of the Kaiju wall of flesh and then gets swallowed by the little Kaiju bug thing in his like mental representation. And then he's like, damn it, I'm always like this. I always screw up when it matters, right? And Kafka's angry. I mean, he's like kind of given up, but also angry at the same time. And the Kaiju's about to kill Mr. Shinomiya, and Kafka's floating in this liquid. And Mr. Shinomiya is like bleeding from his mouth. He's like hunched over in the hole in the wall that was created when they hit him. And he's like, I was hopeful, but I guess all is lost, which means that he thought that Kafka was going to be able to fight him and fight off the Kaiju problem. But apparently Kafka is not strong enough to do that yet, so Kafka has to die, and Mr. Shinomiya is going to die along with him because he gambled incorrectly. But, you know, Kafka has this image of Mina telling him that she'll be waiting for him. That happened in chapter 35 or something, where they're escorting him to the Kaiju Japan Defense Force facility, right? And he wakes up, he opens his eyes really wide, and he's like, damn it, now is my time, I gotta do this. And he reasserts control over his body, and he does this whole move where like the Kaiju's going to attack Mr. Shinomiya to punch him, but Kafka's doing the same motion, but at the last minute, he changes the motion so it hits his own chest. And the Kaiju body around him follows his command and does the same thing and stops the attack on Mr. Shinomiya by hurting himself. And I guess what this is Kafka using his own attack to kind of wake himself up, to kind of shock himself into being able to reassert control. It also reminded me of the Raikage in like the fight with Naruto, where like, I think it was... the only way that the Raikage could get hurt was if he pierced himself with his own sword, and that's how he had that scar on his chest. It's kind of like the same idea, and I thought it was really cool. And yeah, basically Kafka is now like has a hand deep in his chest, and he's still gigantic. And he's looking at Mr. Shinomiya, and he's like, I am not Kaiju number 8. I'm Kafka Hibino. And that's where the chapter ends, and it was so cool. It's so badass. Kafka is just so cool, man. He's so awesome. I really like him. He's a very enjoyable character. I really like how he struggles, because it's like a very tough struggle compared to a lot of other shonen protagonists. Like, yeah, Naruto had a tough time early on. Asta did as well, but Asta and Naruto went OP really fast. I mean, I guess Kafka has already been OP, but Kafka has a lot of, like, problems with self-doubt, which is not the same thing that other characters in shonen magazine and in shonen series tend to have. I mean, they do have self-doubt, but it's more in the kind of like, oh, I'm not strong enough way, instead of like the, oh my god, I actually can't do this at all kind of way, which is a very small difference, but I think it's a meaningful one. And I really appreciate that Kafka has both of those weaknesses, both of those like self-doubts, and that we get to see him explore both of them and try to do his best, which I really appreciate. I think is really good. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this. I think it's been super awesome, and I really like the chapter. And yeah, I don't really have any theories so far for this week. There's really nothing that came to mind, so I'll leave it there. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and see you guys later.